I'm Sophia A. Jackson, and I'm the editor and founder of Aphrodisiac Theatre News. And today I'm joined by.
Anthony Simpson-Pike, and I'm the Artistic Director and co-CEO of Theatre503.
Thank you. Congratulations on your new role as Artistic Director of Theatre503 and the CEO bit as well. How are you finding it, your first few months in the role?
Yeah, so it's actually, I think now gonna nearly a year. I started in February last year,
Yeah.
and it was a really interesting time to start because in the 18 months previously, um, we had our funding for productions. We have project grants. The way that we funded all of our productions were from project grants from the Arts Council. And then in the 18 months just before I arrived, our success rate went from 90% to about 10%. So suddenly I arrived and I was like, oh, okay, how are we going to do productions then?
Yeah.
Um, and immediately had to set out with Emily, my co-CEO and exec director, brilliant person and brilliant mind, thinking about how we could reframe our entire producing model. Um, so we went about, did a huge amount of fundraising, huge amount of thinking, and we now just announced a few months ago our first season of all in-house shows. So it's the first time at 503 that every show that we have in the season is produced in-house because we also have visiting shows and
Yeah.
co-productions with companies that we're sort of uh, helping and supporting to get Arts Council, and then we host them in space and we help them to develop the work. So this has been a big shift in the producing model.
And what is the reason for bringing the productions all in-house then?
So one of the things was that 90% to 10% success rate. That story isn't just about 503, it's a story of project grants in general.
Right.
Um, and it's a national story as well. And so
Hmm.
one of the things was how can we take some of the pressure off young producers? Because at 503 we just do uh,
Yeah.
debut productions, debuts. And so a lot of the teams that we're working with are emerging, and a lot of the producers we're working with are emerging as well. And, we wanted to take the pressure off them having to somehow find another way of getting production on
Mm.
if they weren't able to access Arts Council funding. Um, and to make sure that we had all of these brilliant scripts, and our whole purpose is to give every one of them the best launch that we can.
Yeah.
So uh, so the other thing by bringing them all in house is that it means that we can give each one as much support as possible. We can be developing it from the
Mm.
beginning to the end, and that it's not a matter of this sort of start stoppy thing of, oh, we've got funding suddenly, so now we can do it, or it's about sort of trying to really nurture writers in an environment where um, I fear we could be in danger of losing a generation of writers
Yeah.
because of the funding climate and and the development climate. A lot of opportunities that used to exist before don't exist anymore, and so you know because we work with debuts, we feel even more of a duty and a passion to make sure that we're really holding writers as well as fully as possible.
And I suppose with debuts, though, does that not come with more risk in terms of you just don't know how that show is going to go financially as well?
Yeah, I think I think there is more risk in terms of it's not necessarily someone who's known already, so you're not drawing in a crowd of people who
Yeah.
are just coming because they know that writer's work.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important, and me coming into 503, my passion is that we can be the place where people are taking their biggest risks,
Yeah.
that people can write their boldest play. And I think that is also really necessary, not only for the ecosystem, but it's exciting for audiences that every time they go, they know that they're going to see something bold. They're going to see something they've never seen before. They're going to see something told in a way that they've never seen before as well.
One of my questions was, what are the challenges of being an artistic director? But I feel like having to reframe the entire producing model, was that you being thrown in at the deep end?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we are in a national scenario where to me it's not a question about the Arts Council
Mm,
as much as the government. I think
right.
we're in a national scenario where the government has not been um, funding the arts to the extent that they should for more than a decade,
Yeah.
and that has been different governments. um, and so, yeah, that's a challenge that every artistic director is facing right now. How do we stand in our value, and also make the case that the arts need funding, because it makes sense even on the level of growth. Like the cultural sector is one of the sectors that is actually growing and is
Mm.
world leading in this country. So, the government needs to kind of catch up with that story.
And because it's an issue that's been faced by a lot of artistic directors, does that mean that you are more collegiate in your approach, as in you support each other and offer advice to each other? How is that space with fellow artistic directors?
Yeah, I think a lot of that does go on, and that's something that I'm trying to build a bit more at the
Mm,
moment as well. Just just from a space of how we can. There are fewer resources. We need to collaborate more. How
yeah.
can we make everything go further? And if you look at our season, it's the first time that we're doing proper co-productions as well. So
Okay.
Donbass, the first show of the season, is a co-production with Good Chance,
Hmm.
and 45 North, in association with Seventh Productions. So there's quite a lot of collaboration happening on that. Later in the season, we have a show called Boo. That is a co-production with Theatre Plymouth. It's also the
Okay.
first time that we're touring outside of
Oh,
London
that's
as
really
well.
exciting,
So
isn't it?
yeah, so it's a season of a lot of firsts. Um, but to go back to your question, yes, like we have to work together more. And I think that also is about clarifying our story to the government. What is the narrative that we're pushing forward, and how do we all tell the same story?
And you talked a little bit about the season, but do you want to tell us a bit more about it, your inaugural season, and what are your personal productions that you are looking forward to? I mean, I know you can't choose, but if you had to,
Do you know what? I actually can't choose
I
because they're
refuse.
all brilliant. So
Yeah.
you should you
All
should
right.
come to all of them. They're all brilliant. But the next one on is Donbass. That's the first show in the season by
Yeah.
a brilliant writer called Olga Braga. It's her debut, and it's a really beautiful play, but it's also really darkly funny, which was one of the very surprising things about it. But of course, like humor exists in the darkest of times as
Yeah, it
well, and
does.
that's what it means to be human. So I'm really excited about it. I'm speaking to you from the rehearsal room right now. The actors are brilliant.
Yeah.
Olga's written so brilliantly. Um, the whole team is brilliant. So yes, do book in now for that. Yeah, we have a show called Love You Long Time Already by a brilliant Vietnamese American writer, which is about it, mothers and daughters, and what what we can't say, what we wish we'd said.
Okay.
how that sort of relationship between an immigrant single mum and what they bring and what you pass on as well.
Mhm.
That's very dreamy and beautiful and funny as well. We have a festival called Tomorrow is a Palestinian Day, and that will be a collection of writers from Palestine and in the diaspora as well. Um, we have a show called Boo, which is about um, a man who has lost his partner and then he turns up as a ghost. And that is that's yeah, that's similarly very funny, really beautiful, really haunting, but
Yes.
in a great way. Um, and then we have a show called Cat about a girl called Cat who identifies as a cat. It's about transhumanism. What are the things that make us human?
Mhm.
How does trauma shape us, and how do we find ourselves as well? And then the one that you were asking about earlier was Chewing Gum Dreams. So that will be a new part of the program, which is about celebrating work that should be part of the canon.
Yeah.
And that's about debuts as well. It's showing the fact that debuts can actually change the face of theatre. They can really redefine how you tell stories and redefine the industry. And I think Chewing Gum Dreams is such a beautiful example of that. So this is going to be the first time it's been on since it was first on.
Yeah, and that was
I feel
years ago. So exciting to see it
11 years
back.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So really excited. So grateful to Michaela for letting us put it on and for the chance to direct it because it's just such a beautiful and funny play and it feels so true.
It's a really eclectic program, but I always wonder how, as an artistic director, how do you actually whittle it down to the, yeah, what's the process that you go through when you're like, okay, I'd love to put that one on, but I can't, but this one I 100% will be included. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think people do it differently. I like to do it really collaboratively with the team. So we have a system where everything that will go on, the whole team have read it. So that we're all behind it,
Right.
which I feel is really important as well. I don't want to just be kind of like in my own little tower deciding
Yeah.
what's going on or what isn't. I
Yeah.
really value everyone's perspective. But for me, like one of the questions I'm always asking is it groundbreaking? You
Right.
know, it may be good, it may be this, it may be that, but is it groundbreaking? And I think that I could say that about every one of the shows that, are in the season. And I also want the work to reflect the world. I want
Yeah.
people to be able to look at 503 and say, yeah, that's me, that's my story. And that's one of the things I'm really honored by, with the opportunity to be an artistic director, that at least this room can reflect a multiplicity of who we are.
Hmm. And you came from the Yard Theatre as their deputy artistic director. Has there really been much changes in the role in what you have to do day to day?
I think so, yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest changes is the amount of fundraising that I'm
Right.
doing. I
Yeah.
think every artistic director can tell you how much of their job is fundraising. But
Right.
the big difference as well at 503 is that the Arts Council has a program called the NPO, National Portfolio of Organizations, and those are regularly funded organizations. So you apply, and then they agree to give you X amount of money over a certain number of years. Now, 503 has never been an NPO, despite,
Oh.
and people are often really surprised by that
Hmm.
because of everything that we've achieved.
Yeah.
Um, So, but because we always relied on project grants, but now that our success rate has gone from 90% to 10%, we've really had to think laterally about, okay, how do we fund the work,
Hmm.
especially because we're not an NPO. So fundraising and so fundraising is a huge part of the job, but also, you're where the buck stops. So it's a level of responsibility even greater than before, down to, you know, uh, from do we have a recycling bin up to, okay, let's make sure that all of these accounts are in order, for example, or we need to raise X amount of money by X date.
And how do you balance that in terms of the creative side of the role, though?
Yeah, it's been interesting because for this first year of being in the job, I've just focused on the organization. I haven't made
Mm.
work. And so this is the first time I'm doing it. And I think that was really helpful to kind of, sow all of
Okay.
the seeds and get everything in motion, so that now I'm at a place where I feel like I can do both things at once. But definitely you are making less work when
Mm.
you're running an organization than when you're freelance. And you've got to love both parts of the job. You've got to love making work and also love running a building. And I get things from both parts of that. I love the fact that we can make a space that feels like the space that people who look like me feel welcomed into, or people who, I think that there's something about, or people who want to take risks and write boldly, or, there's something just about that mission, which I find really energizing. But I always have to come back and make work too.
So you mentioned that you have to be able to balance both aspects of the role. So what does a typical day look like for you? I know you're always on your phone.
Am I always on my phone? I kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, my partner's always telling me to get off my phone.
Yeah.
Um, but a typical day looks different a lot of the time, actually. I mean, I might be in like a producing meeting about about the productions that are currently in the season, and working out, okay, have we got the creative team for this, or, what's the update on that? Might then be in a literary script meeting where we're reading the scripts that we've been sent in and deciding whether to take them further or not. Might be meeting some artists,
Mhm.
might actually just be thinking through some strategy with Emily about, okay, what does the next quarter need to look like? How much do we raise? How should we do that? Um, yeah, there's quite a lot of change, and then I might be in a workshop
Mm.
for one of the plays that we're developing, or if we've got a show on at the time, being in previews and supporting the director and the team to make the best show that they can.
It sounds like you need to be really good at multitasking and maybe being in three places at once.
Yes, exactly. You do. You need a time turnout.
And what tips would you give to somebody who has aspirations of becoming an artistic director?
I would say that it's really important to engage in some of those skills of this sort of like less uh, necessarily like fun skills of, okay, what does it look like to understand finances, for example?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be managing a team, how can you create spaces that feel really open and collaborative and that everyone feels involved in? But I think I, I think a lot of that also comes from leading rehearsal rooms, which is why I think a lot of you're working with budgets, you're working with teams,
Yeah.
you're supporting everyone creatively. You know, you're creating a sort of feeling in the room, and that those skills can map onto creating a feeling in the organization as well. But I think it is also, and the reason why I say the kind of boring bit first of like try to think about those other hard skills as well is because you do already get quite a lot of them um, in a rehearsal room, and you can sort of map them on. Um, but I think it's really helpful to find moments of leadership because you don't only have to. I think artistic directorships shouldn't only be open to directors. I think it should be open to people of all different skill sets
Okay.
and talents. But the sort of key thing is that I think you need to have had moments of leadership
Right.
and helped them to kind of refine your skill set, and that you're sort of self-reflective about how each process has gone.
Hmm.
That's how you start to build a sort of sense of, okay, how do I best work with other people and support them to do their best work? How are you learning from what they need to support them to do their best work as well?
And then who supports you to do your best work?
My team, I think.
Yeah.
I think that that's mutual. I don't think it's a
Hmm.
one-way thing, I really feel supported by my team,
Yeah.
and that also goes when I'm directing a show. Once you create those collaborative spaces where people feel like they can say, "Oh, I think this," or "I think that," immediately the work just gets sharper, um, because everyone can actually show up,
Hmm.
and more brains are going to be better than just yours.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll move on to the quick fire questions now. And so the first one, so you can't really spend too much time thinking about them, just first thing comes to your head. What was the last play that you saw?
It was last night. All my sons
Oh, brilliant.
in the West End.
Did you like it?
I did, yeah, I did. I thought the acting was gorgeous.
Thank you. How old were you when you first went to the theatre and who took you?
Oh my God, good question. I would have been at school, and I probably would have been about 13 and would have gone to Leeds Playhouse. I grew up in just
Oh,
outside Leeds.
nice. That's very
We're called
exciting.
West Yorkshire Playhouse at the time.
Yeah. And finally, can you give a shout out to the person in the industry that's had the greatest impact on your career?
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a really difficult question because I think a lot of people have had different. Do you know what? I'll say a couple of different people.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's all right.
Um, I, my first job, being an associate in a theatre, was at the Gate Theatre. That was with
Hmm.
Alan McDougall. So that was a really life-changing moment. Shout out to Jay Miller, artistic director of the Yard, because that time was when I think fully learned all of the skills that I am employing now.
That's excellent.
Um, and shout out to Lynette Linton as well, because some of my favorite experiences of working have been at the Bush.
Lynette's name comes up all the time. Her and Daniel Bailey. Actually, this is the final question. Why should we come and see your inaugural season at Theatre 503?
You should come and see it because there's something for everyone in there. It's really engaged with the world as it is. There's each show is so human and funny and bold and risk taking, and you won't be bored by anything you come to see.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it from me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. All right, bye bye.
Bye.